The Premier League is back. The Premier League is back. Woohoo!
On the Plot Malaysia.
Hello, welcome to the Plot Malaysia. This is our 73rd episode. This is the show for the fans.
By the fans.
Woohoo! Oh yeah, the Premier League is finally back. Me and myself and Hari are really excited. And today's episode is really special because we are going to be joined by a football analyst all the way from India, Mr. Harshal Patel. Let's welcome Harshal.
Welcome,
Hey
Harshal.
guys. Hey guys.
Hey, Harshal, looking great with your United
Thank
jersey.
you.
It's gonna be 2-1.
I've got to say, I'm outnumbered, but we're kind of used to it as Liverpool fans, and we're underdogs. We prefer being the underdogs. Like we're going to the season, strong underdogs, and under the blanket, really, and then we'll rise to the top.
I hope you stay under the blanket this season, man. So, guys, we have Harshal Patel on with us today, and he's a football analyst all the way from India. So, Harshal, just for our viewers, why don't you share a bit about yourself and what you do, back in India? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I've been sort of doing this for a little over 3.5 years now, where it started off just as, sort of writing tactical analysis articles for the website Total Football Analysis, and the role sort of progressed to an extent where I've also worked on client projects where we've consulted for clubs, in terms of recruitment and scouting and that sort of thing. So I've done, the focus of my writing has majority of my writing has been on the Premier League. So teams, coaches, players, from the Premier League, but I've also done a lot of work just in terms of what's happening in elsewhere in Europe. We covered the Euros, we've covered the World Cup in 2018 as well. So that's basically in terms of the coverage. I've seen a lot of football over the last 3.5 to 4 years. Not that I wasn't watching it earlier; it was just nice to be paid for it as well.
Yeah.
You're getting,
Yeah, I agree.
I can imagine. I suppose you can't miss a game, basically.
it's not about can't miss a game. It's more about, like, if you know that, okay, I have to do the analysis piece for this game, which is on Sunday night. I have to obviously watch it. There's no otherwise I'll have to watch it again, and sort of the time I have to write the analysis of the game will be reduced and all of that. So in that sense, you need to plan your weekends so that, okay, there's this game which I have to write about, or this coach who I need to write about, so I need to watch this match, and therefore, okay, I can't really go out this weekend, or I can't go out this evening because I have to sit and watch that match. But it's a lot of fun because, as I said, you're getting paid to watch football essentially and write about it.
Yeah.
And football has been a huge passion since I was 7-8 years old, so 20-21 years old, and it was a great opportunity in that sense to be able to do that. Although I have left Total Football Analysis in July, so just about last month. I was part of Total Football Analysis for, as I said, about 3.5 years. But now I'm sort of trying to freelance and work with different outlets, and with the same sort of goal of just providing analysis and insight into the game of football. So yeah, with that, happy to be here. I'm really looking forward to the conversation we're going to have today as well.
Yeah, very exciting. Very happy to have you on the show as well. Absolutely brilliant.
Awesome. I know we spoke about this as well, Harshal, a while back before we had connectivity issues, guys. But in terms of some of the work you did on a consulting basis at Total Football Analysis, I think you did mention you're doing a bit of work for some Premiership clubs and some clubs in Europe as well.
Yeah, so we've done work with a couple of clubs in the Premier League about 2 seasons ago. We've done work with a club in the MLS. We've done work with a club in the A-League, which is Australia. Done work with a couple of Scandinavian clubs, Belgian clubs. So all of that I mean, it's quite eye-opening when you actually work with a club and they come and they have very sort of specific requirements, and the way it's not as simple or as easy as we think it is, because uh, there are very sort of deadlines are very tight, and their requirements are also very specific and very strict. So you need to then obviously have that process in place to meet those requirements. So it was quite you know, yeah, I learned quite a lot basically by working on those projects. But yeah, as you said, worked across projects for clubs in Europe and elsewhere in the world as well.
Awesome,
Wow,
awesome.
very, very exciting.
I've actually had a look at the website as well, and yeah, I mean, guys were really into. I know you're not no longer with TFA, but guys are really into the tactical kind of stuff. It's got really good insights on that website from a tactical perspective. Now, before we get into the agenda and topics for the day, Harshal, because we're going to be picking your brain on Varane and Sancho. A lot of United fans out there looking forward to a game in an hour's time. I think the kickoff is an hour. Would like to know
Yeah.
how that team is going to work, how it's going to set up and function with those two heavyweights in the side now. And of course, we're going to quickly delve into the comparison between stylistically and tactically between Pep and Guardiola, probably considered the two finest managers at this present moment in the world. Before we go into that, I've got to ask you this question. In
Sure.
India, you're a diehard football fan, United fan, a big football fan in India. It's a cricket mad country. Where do they rank, cricket and football, for you?
For me personally, I mean, football is still above cricket.
Yep.
Although I grew up obviously playing cricket, I've watched cricket. I still watch cricket quite a lot. But in terms of, if you want to talk about, if you want to just judge my personal sort of preference, I still put football over cricket. So, like today, for example, there is a cricket match going on where India are playing England,
Yep.
which would, I think the play would have started just about 20 minutes ago or so. But I'm here talking to you guys, and I will watch the United game with the India England match on on my phone, probably just there, so I can just
Yep.
keep looking at the score. But
Yep.
it's, for me personally, obviously football and then cricket. But in India, as you would know,
Yep.
cricket is still by far the biggest sport.
Yep.
Football is getting there. It's getting there slowly. Um, there are a lot of fans of the Premier League, especially in
Yep.
European football in general, but specifically the Premier League. So the big clubs, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, City a little bit now. Spurs have quite a few fans. I know two or three pretty passionate Spurs fans as well. Arsenal, obviously. So the big clubs are supported pretty well. The English football is watched quite a lot, but in terms of support for the game in the country, where the national team can do well, or that there can be progress for football in India, I think it's still getting there. The ISL, which is the Indian Super League,
Yep.
is doing well. The attendances and all of that are growing. Interest in the league is growing, but it's still, I think there's still quite some time for it to become. I don't think it'll ever come close to cricket, but even for India to be sort of a competitive country in football in Asia, for example, it'll still take some time.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to
insight.
see in the Asian Cup or something in the future, something to
Yeah.
look for in the future, and we're definitely rooting for it as well. So now, of course, as a United fan, Harshal, very, very excited, with the business that United have actually gone on with Varane and Sancho. So, it's going to be really exciting because, Sogja finally got these two players that he wanted into the squad. One is to add the defense, and of course, one more to have a firepower going forward. I just want to pick your brain, Harshal. How do you think, Varane and Sancho are going to make a huge difference in the tactical plans for Ole this season?
I think just before you
Yeah.
jump into that, Harshal, what do you think
No
of the
worries.
two
Yeah, yeah.
signings actually? What do you think of these
Yeah.
two signings that United have made?
No. So Sancho, obviously, United have been chasing for 2 years now. Couldn't get him last year. I
Yep.
think it's actually a brilliant deal because if United would have had signed him last year, Dortmund were asking for, I think, 120 million euros,
120
and
million. Yep.
they were very firm on that. That's basically why it didn't happen, because United didn't meet that asking price. United have signed him for what, 73 million euros, if I'm not mistaken.
73 million euros. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big drop in value, in price, not in value. I'd say he's still. I think he actually benefited from another season in the Bundesliga where he had a bit of a slow start, but towards the end of the season he was in fantastic form again. for Dortmund as they sort of came back and qualified for the Champions League. Dortmund were out of the Champions League places for most of the season last year. The manager was sacked. Edin Terzic became the interim manager, and under him they've sort of made a late charge and sort of got into the top four and made Champions League again. And a lot of that was down to Sancho's performances.
Yep.
So, and then when you come to Varane, I mean, Raphael Varane, United tried to sign him when he went to Real Madrid initially from Lens in France.
For the same time.
I think, it was. I think Zidane wasn't the manager, but he was assistant. He was the manager of the youth team at the in Madrid at that point, if I'm not mistaken, and he basically convinced him because I think for everybody of our age or of this generation, football fans in France, Zidane is obviously the icon. So he United, I think, have tracked him for a while, and he's still just 28. You know, that's still around
at a peak for a centre back.
Exactly.
This centre back.
Yeah, so he's got a good 2-3 years left at his peak, and the fee we've paid is not too much at all. It's around 35-40 odd million. So to get a defender of his class, you know, he's won multiple Champions Leagues, he's won the World Cup, he's won La Liga, he's won countless trophies. He's been one of the best centre backs in the world over the last decade. To get a player of his experience and his talent at that price is fantastic. And the thing is, as obviously we'll talk about in a little while, his style of play, his attributes will work very well with Harry Maguire, in my opinion, and they'll also sort of help the United side evolve and take, I think, a very necessary and important step in terms of, you know, being able to challenge for the Premier League, going deep in the Champions League. So he has a lot of those attributes that United haven't had, you know, at centre back. So in terms of the two signings themselves, I'm massively excited because they add a lot of stuff to United that you know they've not had for a while.
Yep, absolutely. So, how do you think they're going to change the game? You know, in the coming season, tactics wise, what do you think is going to happen?
So I'll start with Varane. So we're still actually waiting for the official announcement, which hasn't come in.
I'm surprised it's not been announced yet. Right, it's been waiting for so long.
Basically, the visa issues and COVID quarantining and all of that. I'm hopeful. Hopefully, in the next couple of days, we'll get that, and then he should be available for the next game. But so with Varane, the thing is, he's an extremely complete defender in terms of he can almost do everything that you want from a centre back. He's a brilliant passer in terms of being able to progress the ball up the field. It's not like he'll just pass it to his full back or to the guy in front of him and that's it. He can find players higher up the pitch with regularly with accuracy. He's very comfortable playing in a high defensive line. So that's something that United have been trying to do for a long time, especially under Solskjaer, where under Mourinho, it was obviously a low block and United used to sort of sit back and defend deep. Ole has been trying to move the United defensive line up the field over the last 18 months or so. But the problem is that to do that, you need defenders who have pace. Now, Harry Maguire is fantastic. I think over the last year or so at the Euros and also just the season he's had for United, people have now, I think, are now realizing that, he is one of the best Premier League centre-backs, potentially top 10 centre-backs in the world, because he's been fantastic, in my opinion, Maguire, for both club and country. So, but one of the weaknesses he has is that he's not quick. He doesn't have the pace. So and we've seen a lot of teams, exploit that. We got knocked out of the Champions League. RB Leipzig continuously sort of got behind our defensive line. I can't remember specific examples right now other than that, but there have been multiple instances where, I do remember Leicester City in the FA Cup where
Jamie Vardy.
Jamie. It's not just Jamie Vardy. It's just that when Maguire sort of moves up, he's someone who's an aggressive defender. He'll move up to try and tackle or sort of get tight to players. But when he does that, and if there's somebody else making a run in behind, he doesn't have the speed to recover. So there's that gap that's left in behind, and he doesn't have the speed to recover. Lindelof is again a good defender, but again not the quickest. So
not the quickest,
Varane is rapid. He is extremely quick, and he can keep up with most players from what I've seen. So that'll help us to play that high line where you're not too scared of being caught out when somebody makes a run in behind and there's a pass played, because Varane can sort of he has the speed to recover. So that, as I said, that will help United consistently to play a higher line, which is important because if you're trying to play an aggressive style of football where you're pressing and you want more of the ball, it's also important that you play a high line because if you're dropped off, there's space in midfield that the opposition can exploit. You're looking to sort of deny them that space by playing in a high line. So Varane will give you that. Defensively, he's good at. So there's two things that you would look for in a centre back, or there's two things that you would try and judge. One is whether they're good at sort of marking the player. Where when I say that, I mean what I mean by that is in direct duels with another player. So, for example, if Varane is up against Jamie Vardy or a Harry Kane or Sergio Aguero, for example, obviously he's not in the Premier League anymore. But basically, if you're up against one direct opponent, how do you deal with that? Do you mark them tightly? Are you able to get the better of them in the air and that sort of thing? So that's one thing. The other is marking the space. What I mean by that is, what do you do when you have nobody to mark? So say if you're playing against Chelsea, say Romelu Lukaku is not playing, you're playing against a front three of Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, and Christian Pulisic. None of those
Very flexible front three. You mean? Yep.
Exactly. None of those three are traditional strikers who'll sort of make runs in behind or stick tight to the centre back. They'll drop off. Kai Havertz will play as a false nine. He'll go into midfield.
Yep.
You've got no direct opponent to mark. What do you do now? Do you stay back? Do you go ahead? That's one of the biggest problems of playing against teams that don't play with a centre forward. Liverpool, for example, Firmino isn't a centre forward.
Yep.
Exactly. He drops off, and then you've got Salah and Mane cutting in from inside. Even Diogo Jota, when he plays as the centre forward, he's still he does sort of play a little more direct, but he also sort of drops off. There's no traditional number 9 there. So marking the space in that sense, where do you sort of push up? Do you stay back? Or it doesn't even have to be in that sort of specific situation, but just in general, how do you manipulate the space around you? Do you force players into certain areas where they're not comfortable through your own body positioning? That a lot of the thing is, defense or defensive players or defenders are extremely difficult to analyze because for centre back, for every other position on the pitch, whether you're looking at strikers, midfielders, you have statistics to look at, right? Where you've got goals, assists, expected goals, progressive passes, blah, blah, blah. You've got tons of stats. A lot of those stats can be used with centre backs as well. But a lot of the work that centre backs do at the moment is not captured by statistics. Like, how do you capture positioning? Like, if a centre back is positioned really well, there's no stat that tells you, okay, his positioning was great. That's something that you only understand when you watch that player, and there's no metric that tells you. There's actually one way of looking at it, that if you have a centre back who's making a lot of tackles, that might not be a very good thing because it could mean that he's out of position, and that's why he's having to make the tackle.
And he's making a lot of last-ditch challenges. Yeah. So
exactly.
So he's caught out of positions. Yeah.
Yeah. There could be another defender who's just because he's not getting caught out of position, he doesn't have to make the tackle. The ball just comes to him. But he's not ranking, therefore, because he's not making those tackles, he's not ranking high in like the tackle metric. And then people look at that and they might be like, oh no, that player makes a lot of tackles, he must be good. That's the thing. The thing with looking at centre backs or just defenders in general is that you need to watch them. You can't really just rely on stats because a lot of defending isn't captured by metrics at the moment. There are a lot of people trying to sort of build models which can bring that in, but a lot of that is still not captured. So when you look at Varane, you get the sense that he is the complete defender. He can do anything. He's good in the air, both defensively and offensively. So I'm hopeful that United have also got a set piece coach on board finally. Eric Ramsey has come in from Chelsea because we were horrible from set pieces last season. We conceded too many goals. It was just shambolic, and given the players we had, we didn't really score too many goals from set pieces either. We have some very good players in the air, but we didn't really we didn't take advantage of that in the opposition's box either. Sorry. So so with Varane coming in, you've got Maguire as well. Just those two centre backs, I think, will form a very good partnership. They complement each other really well, and I'm expecting United to be able to play a little bit higher up the pitch. I'm expecting United to not be that bad defensively, both especially in terms of set pieces, both because of the set piece coach who's come in and because of Varane's presence. And I'm expecting United to also be able to sort of when they try to play out from the back, when the goalkeeper has the ball and you're passing it to the centre backs and you're trying to play it out, you're trying to build possession from the back. I think that Varane's presence will also help there because he's a very good passer in terms of picking his passes, in terms of his, it's not like he'll pass to someone who's in danger of then being tackled
Got-
and the ball
Yep.
the ball being given over. So all of that, just in general, it'll provide a pretty big lift, in my opinion, to United's play. Obviously, depends on him settling in, sort of forming an understanding with the defensive unit and all of that. So it could take maybe a couple of months, but he's an absolutely fantastic player, and I'm expecting a lot of good things from him. And because of that, I'm expecting United's defense specifically, but also their build-up play to improve quite a lot.
Harshal,
Yeah.
as you were talking there, I had a lot of questions come up in my mind to dig deeper and maybe challenge that theory a little bit as well.
Yep.
But first, in looking at time as well, I just want to make sure that we go really deep into this because I'm really enjoying the chat. I hope it's fine with you. But if we
Yeah, absolutely.
we push forward the Klopp and Pep chat to a second part show that we do on in a week's time, would that be fine with you?
No problem. I'm absolutely fine with that.
All right, perfect. Then let's dive into Varane and Sancho, because I've got a couple of questions as you were talking then, and spot on, right? Because I think the idea of bringing Varane is to push that line higher from a United perspective. My only question is, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, because Liverpool play with a very high line, right? And that's one of the reasons they suffered last year when they lost the centre backs. They had to push everything back because I think to play that high line, you need speedy centre backs. You need centre backs who are tall as well, because teams would try to bypass a press, for example, etc. Right? So you need pace, you need height, and you need defenders who are good in the air as well. Now, Varane is brilliant at that, but the fact that Maguire doesn't have the turnaround pace, does that make it a good partnership, or do you need both defenders to be quick, basically, or is one good enough? Or will there be a situation where you play a high line and teams then just target Maguire's side of the game? Because obviously, I think the one thing I spoke to Ram about when Varane, when we spoke about the Varane signing was Varane's played with Sergio Ramos, who's great, who's a brilliant defender. He's got pace. He's good with the ball as well. And it's different with Maguire, right? So it's all about partnership. So I just want to get your thoughts on that, basically. The fact that is one defender having that turnaround pace sufficient for you to play that high line?
So it's a lot of things. Now, when you talk about Liverpool, obviously play a pretty high line, expecting them to do the same this season as well. The thing with Liverpool is because, Klopp is almost fanatical about the press in terms of how hard and how high Liverpool press. Now, last season was obviously weird. We had just about a month's break between the end of the previous season and the start of this season, of last season. So teams didn't really have a lot of time to recover. Teams were tired. So physical output dropped off. Liverpool, I think every club in the Premier League, bar maybe Aston Villa, pressed in a lot less intense manner than they did in the 2019-20 season, because players were just tired. So what I'm trying to get at here is that, like, for Liverpool, for example, the press, because they press so high, and then you can play a high line because they press really high. So they're looking to win the ball high up the pitch through gegenpressing, which is counter pressing basically, and that helps create chances, because the higher up the pitch you win the ball, obviously then the opposition are scattered in a vulnerable position in their own defensive third, and you've got the ball in their defensive third, in your attacking third basically, and you can create chances much more easily than when the ball is in your own half. You still need to get the ball up to your attacking third. So Liverpool, obviously, the high line works for them because the press also works for them really well. And this is sort of slightly going off topic, but I expect Liverpool to do well this season because Van Dijk's coming back, Joe Gomez is coming back. You've signed Ibrahim Konate from Leipzig, who's a very good defender.
Outstanding centre back,
And he's worked under Hasenhüttl at Leipzig again. Not Hasenhüttl.
Nagelsmann.
Julian Nagelsmann at Leipzig, who's gone to Bayern Munich now. But Leipzig are again one of the highest pressing teams in Europe, and it's not just about pressing hard. It's about knowing when to press, about when do you pressure someone. Okay, if my teammate's pressuring, I need to cover this player so he can't pass here. So all of those things are something that Konate will know well. The rest of the team, obviously, at Liverpool know really well. Salah and Mane have had, the summer off. They've not played in any summer tournament, so I'm expecting them to come in really fresh as well. So that approach works for Liverpool. Now, the thing with United is United have tried to press high. They've tried to press aggressively, and it worked at times. It's not worked at times because sometimes the players haven't really sort of fit that template. So, for example, Paul Pogba isn't going to be the guy who's going to go and press high, but
Yeah, he's not.
he's been played in a position where he's had to do that, and it's not worked, and the team have been able to play past him. At times, it's not worked because the way in which they're doing it is not done really well. It's not targeted properly, or it's not staggered properly. So again, gaps open up, the team can play through you. So in terms of the line or the high line working, the press needs to work. Because if that's not working, then it's very easy for you to be bypassed.
Yeah, you're giving world class players time on the ball basically to pick a pass, right? To play in behind.
Yeah, and then you've got space in behind, one ball in, and you're looking at a goal being scored. Now, when you look at Maguire and Varane, and let's say look at the entirety of the back four, Wan-Bissaka at right back and Luke Shaw at left back. Wan-Bissaka and Shaw, generally when United build up, they stay slightly deep. They don't really advance too far.
Yep.
Shaw is obviously the more attacking fullback. Wan-Bissaka is the more defensive fullback, although he has tried to improve the attacking side of his game. Now, that sort of ties into Sancho's arrival as well, because with Sancho coming in,
the support will be there.
Yeah, he's not had attacking support. So he's had at times, and because United's attacking play has been so focused down the left, there have been multiple occasions over the last 18 months or so where, the entire right flank is empty and it's only Wan-Bissaka there. There's nobody else offering support because whoever's on the right is also coming in field. And whoever's sent, like Bruno's going over to the left. You've got Rashford, Sancho on the left. So there's nobody on the right to offer support or offer, just another option there for which can take a defender away and create space. So that obviously is about the build-up, but overall, what's going to happen, in my opinion, is that you've got Shaw, Maguire, Varane, and Wan-Bissaka in that back four. Now, Varane obviously, as I said, has that pace. Shaw has the pace. Wan-Bissaka has the pace there as well. So it's not the thing is, when the two centre backs, neither of them have had pace earlier with Maguire and Lindelof.
Yep.
So it's very easy to play a ball centrally and get, bypass them. At least with one of them, with Varane having that pace, I'm expecting also to see maybe a little bit of a tweak where Maguire stays slightly deeper than Varane. He's not got the pace, so he's the one who stays slightly deeper. Varane is the one who pushes up a little bit more. So if the ball does get played in behind, Maguire is still deeper and he can cover while Varane gets back. I don't know if that will actually happen. I expect that to happen. But again, it depends on if Solskjaer looks at it that way, because Maguire is, again, very good at pushing forward with the
going
ball.
forward.
He gets on the ball and he's like a tank. He gets on the ball and he goes forward, and it's very difficult to stop him. He's been a very important progressor of the ball for United, along with Shaw. And that, again, because he plays on the left as well, again, United's tilt. Everything has happened down United's left. So with Varane coming in on the right, it'll help Wan-Bissaka as well, because
Sancho on the right,
and Sancho on the right, obviously. Exactly. So with Varane coming in on the right, Sancho coming in on the right, it'll help Wan-Bissaka a lot, because one of Wan-Bissaka's biggest weaknesses is that he gets caught at the back post. So what I mean here is, when the ball is on United's left, when the opposition are attacking down United's left-hand side, you'll see, obviously, teams shift to whichever flank the attack is happening on, right? So when the ball is on United's left, the team is attacking down the left, the United defense, the entire team has shifted across. Wan-Bissaka is in a central, or basically at the back post. If you were to visualize it, he's somewhere at the back post. He's been caught out multiple times when there's a cross that comes in and he doesn't know who's behind him. He gets caught out at the back post. The player gets in behind him and scores. That happened in the Leipzig game in the Champions League. It happened, I believe, against PSG as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's happened multiple times in the league as well, where he gets caught at the back post because he gets too far infield and he doesn't know what his surroundings are, and a player can come in and score, with a header or just get the ball at their feet and score. With Varane with him, Varane has that positional sense and it's a lot of, obviously, defending is again about communication, right? So Varane will talk to him, will tell him, you know what, you go 5 yards that way. You don't need to come so close in. 5 yards that way, 7 yards, stay there so that that space is blocked off. Or just keep looking. Or something as simple as a shout where man on, or you've got someone coming behind you, watch out, stuff like that. So that'll take a little bit of time to build, but because Varane has that experience of playing for the top team for years and years now. He'll also, I think, be able to coach Wan-Bissaka a little bit from that side of thing, from a defensive side of thing. And then obviously when we get to Sancho, Sancho should help Wan-Bissaka's offensive side. So I'm hopeful, honestly, that once Sancho and Varane have both sort of bedded in at United, they've played a few games, they've built up their overall understanding with the team, that Wan-Bissaka is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that, because he's brilliant defensively. He's one of the best defensive right backs.
One-on-one defenders.
Hardly anybody gets past him. But a lot of teams have done this to United, where they set up their press in a way where they're happy for Wan-Bissaka to have the ball. So when Wan-Bissaka have the ball,
he's not good moving forward.
Exactly. They don't press. They block off his passing options, and
and then
they allow him to go forward, and he gives the ball away, and they can counter attack. So they've targeted him over the last year or so. People have seen that he's not that good. So he needs to improve that, because otherwise he'll keep getting targeted, and that's an obvious weak link in the United side. So, I know I got a little detail there, but that's basically how I see the defensive side of things working out with Varane coming in.
I'm really happy with that. Yeah.
Before Ram goes into this, because I know Ram is going to want to ask you about Sancho next. He's excited about that attacking weapon that you guys have built. I've got one more question on the Varane thing, right? Playing the high line, I understand your theory behind that. But also, as you mentioned, when you play a high line, because obviously I've been watching Liverpool for so many years now as well, and we play that high line, you have to press to play that high line effectively, right? Which also involves a very effective, very disciplined, and very physically strong, I would say, midfield. Right, and Liverpool have always had that workman-like midfield. The guys are constantly pressing, very disciplined. Now, Pogba is not the most disciplined of midfielders in the business. I don't think Bruno Fernandes is as well. He's more of a 10, as opposed to a midfielder that I think will be more will harass and be quite disciplined on that side, maybe covering fullbacks, etc. Will that be an issue with the high line as well? Because United, I mean, the reason I asked the question is bringing Varane in. The idea is to move that line up, but United were successful last year playing a counter-attacking game primarily. So they seem to have the weapons that are suited for a fast counter-attacking game up front, even in the midfield. Now, basically playing a high line, you're changing the way almost your team plays, because your team have got to be able to keep the ball quite well in midfield, number one, and then they've got to be able to effectively press as well. Is that going to be a problem to change all that in such a short span of time with the other players that you have who may not be suited to a game like that?
So now the thing is, and I was talking about this earlier on the earlier sort of recording we were doing, was that there's been a lot of, I mean, when you look at, say, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Julian Nagelsmann, Antonio Conte, Thomas Tuchel, all these guys, there's a very defined style of play that you can sort of say, okay, this is Jurgen Klopp's style of play, this is how Pep Guardiola plays, and so on. The criticism of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, one of the biggest criticisms has been that sort of defined approach style has not been there. It's more, it's more.
It's non-existent, right?
No, that's the criticism, or that's what people think, that it's not existing. That it's like how Sir Alex used to do things, where you put your best players out on the pitch, you lay a broad framework, and then you ask they can figure it out,
express themselves.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of that, but the thing is, if you've sort of kept track of what Solskjaer has been saying in press conferences when he's been asked these questions, he basically wants to build a multifunctional team which is good at lots of things in terms of, he wants to have a team that's good at counter-attacking, but that's one that's also good at keeping the ball and breaking down teams that, sit back and defend. Because one of the biggest issues that United have had, which that I think was the case maybe 2 seasons ago, they improved on this last season, was that they were able to break down deep-lying teams. So like a Burnley, for example, or even a Mourinho's Spurs, which is sitting back, Crystal Palace. Newcastle, these sort of teams which are just going to sit back and defend with like 9-10 players around their box in a very deep defensive block. United used to have problems breaking those teams down because, as you said, it was about counter-attacking. So essentially, United wanted to be the team that's sitting back and then using the pace of Rashford, Dan James, Anthony Martial, and so on, with Bruno Fernandes obviously doing the passing and hitting them on the counter-attack. But when the team is sitting deep, you don't have the space to counter-attack. All the space is in front of the other team. There's no space in behind for you to counter-attack. United got a little bit better at that last season, I thought. But overall, that's what Solskjaer wants. He wants a multifunctional team. So if you're playing Man City, yeah, fine. We'll sit back, we'll defend, we'll counter-attack. But if we're playing Burnley in the next game, we can switch our approach and, keep the ball, have 60-65% possession and break them down through passing and quick movement, like how City do, like how Liverpool did maybe a couple of seasons ago. They weren't that good at it last season. So it's a gradual process. I don't think it'll happen overnight, especially because Varane obviously has not really trained yet. He's barely, I think, just about got into the country, I think, a couple of days ago. So it'll take it'll happen gradually. I still expect United to play in like a mid-block. Like when I say a mid-block, the defensive line will probably be midway through their own half rather than being on the halfway line. It'll probably move up a little bit throughout as the season progresses. But more importantly, when you spoke about the midfield, Fernandes is actually an extremely aggressive presser. He will run himself into the ground for the full 90 minutes. If you watch United play, he is constantly harrying and chasing the opposition defenders, and a lot of times you can see him gesturing to the other players that, support me, get up in front of with me. Cavani is also someone who, obviously he's old now, but he's also very intelligent and he also provides a little bit of energy. So if you can use him strategically in terms of targeting or short bursts where he presses, doesn't need to keep running around all the time. You've got Fernandes there. Sancho is brilliant again, is a very good presser off the ball. He needed to be. Dortmund are, again, over the last 3 or 4 seasons since he's been there, they've been one of the best pressing sides in Europe. He, again, presses really well. He's very intelligent in terms of his positioning, in terms of when to time his runs. And then whoever plays on the left, whether it's Dan James, Rashford, Martial, Rashford has the pace. It's about all these guys. It's about Solskjaer being able to sort of tell them or coach them and build that pressing sort of framework where everybody knows what they need to do. So as long as he can do that, I think that front four is good enough to be able to press from the front. In terms of the midfield, I personally think that United need a defensive midfielder. There is one more signing we need to make, which is a defensive midfielder, because we've got Fred and McTominay starting most games. Pogba was moved out to the left for, I think, the last sort of 20% of the season, the ending of the season last season, because he basically doesn't have the defensive, I wouldn't say the defensive
discipline.
Sense, but discipline. It's just not his game, and honestly, you're taking away from his game if you ask him to defend. He's not good at that. It's much better if you can provide the platform for him to express himself creatively. So he was played on the left, for example, on the left wing. So even if Pogba plays in the midfield too, I don't think he should be playing in midfield too. If we play a 4-3-3, then maybe he can play as one of the two higher midfielders. But in a 4-2-3-1, I do not think Pogba should play in the 2. He should be an option on the left. So then you've got only Fred, McTominay, and Nemanja Matic. Those are your 3 players. Matic is good. He's still good. He's very good at progressing the ball. But again, he's also getting on in terms of age. He doesn't have the legs to cover the entire, defensive midfield area. So we definitely need a defensive midfielder, in my opinion, for this approach to work properly. In
the long term,
if we manage, and for me personally, there have been rumors, and Solskjaer also, I think, last week said that he's hoping for one more player to come in. I'm hoping that, that's a defensive midfielder. Eduardo Camavinga would be fantastic if he managed to get Camavinga from there, because he's got a year left on his transfer, on his contract. 50 odd million should do it, but I don't know if that will happen, because he has the choice of sort of running down his contract and then choosing whichever club he wants to go to on a free transfer next season. So I don't know if that will happen, but definitely we need a defensive midfielder to come in, like a number 6, basically, to sit and provide that solid base. And as you said, then that then will help the guys in front to press properly because they know that there is someone there to cover as well if they mess up. At the moment, that's not the case. McTominay is good. He's got the energy to play in midfield. But I see him more as a box-to-box midfielder. He can't play defensive midfield because he doesn't have the passing range as well. He's not good on the ball. He's again someone who opposition teams have targeted because when he's on the ball, they can sort of shut off his passing options and he can give the ball away. Or he plays very simple passes. He doesn't provide ball progression from midfield. Fred, on the other hand, this is actually something I read on The Athletic from Carl Anka, and it makes perfect sense. His brain is brilliant. Everything above the shoulders is fantastic. His vision, his sort of understanding of when to play the pass. But it's below that the problem occurs.
Execution. You're talking about the execution, basically.
Yeah, he sees the pass, but he can't make the pass. He sees that, okay, Fernandes is in space there, but he'll pass 10 yards away from and it'll go out into for a throw-in.
It reminds me of myself.
For a Brazilian, right?
It's very similar to me then, basically. I've got the brain. I can see where the pass is to him. Can't execute it for nuts.
That's the thing. You don't expect that. You can, if he was like a 19, 20-year-old kid coming through the academy, you'd be like, oh, okay, good potential. Needs to work on his just execution. But he's like 27, 28. We bought him for 50 million. You don't expect that from a player you bought for 50 million.
Yeah.
Right?
And somehow Brazilian. I thought Brazilians are really passing, So it would be natural for him to come up with the kind of passing as well. It's been, but I agree with you. Well said, Harshal. Above the shoulder, yeah. Below, no.
Before that's a great point. Before Ram gets into asking you to add a little bit about the attacking side of what the beautiful machine that you have brought, Sancho, that you have brought to the club. I've got to boast. This is the time where I boast about being a Liverpool fan, right? When you talk about defense,
go ahead.
We are probably one of the finest in the world, Fabinho. So just to let you guys know,
yeah, absolutely.
That's the kind of guy you need because he makes our system work. He makes us tick that man. I think that's what we need to play.
He is absolutely fantastic.
To say it, but it's true. I agree.
Because one of the biggest reasons Liverpool had that slump last season was because Fabinho had to be moved from defensive midfield at centre back. They didn't have him at defensive midfield, and that's one of the biggest reasons they struggled.
The moment we moved him back to midfield, we won 10 in a row. We were unbeaten the last 10 games. So it tells you the importance of having that position spot on, I think.
So Liverpool, again, just to continue a little bit with Liverpool, if you guys have your first choice midfield, which in my opinion should be Fabinho,
Thiago and Henderson.
And Thiago. You've got Naby Keita. Apparently, Naby Keita and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain have been doing really well in preseason. So you've that 3 plus those 2 guys there, and then apparently you can play Harvey Elliott. He's tried Harvey Elliott in attacking.
He looks absolutely phenomenal in preseason. By the way, Harvey Elliott, he's looked really good.
I did a report on him for TFA about 2-3 months ago or so.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
He's brilliant. And then the other one who stood out in preseason, I don't know how he's going to play in the league yet. He hasn't settled, obviously, in the Premiership as yet. But I think one to watch this year, maybe off the bench. But Taki Minamino has looked absolutely brilliant in preseason. So maybe it was just a settling in period, but he looks the part now, and it'll be very interesting to watch.
No, that's why I genuinely think that even though Liverpool have made just one sort of signing in Konate, the fact that a lot of their players are having a full preseason, they're settling in. Salah, Mane, even Firmino, they've not had summer tournaments, so they've had rest. And again, they looked really apparently hungry and charged, and they look like they've got their mojo back in that sense.
Yeah.
So, and obviously you've got Van Dijk coming back, you've got Gomez coming back, so that's going to make a huge difference. Fans back at Anfield is going to make a huge difference. So I know people are talking about City and Chelsea as the two, top 2 contenders for the title, but I genuinely think Liverpool could take people by surprise because Klopp, I am a huge fan of Jurgen Klopp. I wanted him to come to United when he went to Liverpool. He's absolutely brilliant, and he's built that system there where they can, it doesn't need to have new signings every time or big new signings every summer. I think Liverpool are definitely going to be up there, in my opinion, but let's hope United are up there as well.
We had to go a little off topic there and talk about Liverpool. You want to ask about your shiny toy, Sancho, and what he's going to add into the attacking side of the game? Yeah.
Yeah, I will ask, but Hari, your mouth, you'll be thinking, you should be fearful of the current United team that's going to be attacking when they go to Anfield or when Liverpool come to Old Trafford. So, speaking of this, right? I mean, I just wanted to do a comparison, just off the cuff. Harshal, I was just wondering because Hari was talking about Liverpool, and of course, we are United fans, and we are discussing about the two new players that have come in. So, in my opinion, obviously, when I look at Sancho, there's going to be a lot of attacking down the right, which we probably never had last season. It was mostly on the left hand side. Shaw was crossing in the ball. But now with Sancho coming on with a lot of skill, a lot of finesse going on down the right, how do you think the game is going to look like, when they're moving forward attack? Does that take the pressure off Bruno Fernandes from moving all over the pitch and allow him to focus on what he needs to do? How do you see that gameplay coming going forward in that?
No, definitely. Obviously, Fernandez has had the entire sort of burden of creating chances for United since he came in January, and he's been fantastic. He's
Yep.
he's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, he's obviously people on social media, like non-United fans or fans of other clubs, sort of mock him by saying he just takes penalties. But I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the statistics, if you look at the numbers, if you
Yep.
look at underlying numbers, he's one of the most threatening players across Europe, not just in the Premier League, because
Yes, I agree.
he basically, like Bruno Fernandes, all he tries to do is to try and create a chance in terms. And what I mean by that is he will always try the risky pass. So his pass completion numbers may be like he might have 75% pass completion in a game. But that's because he's continuously trying to play that dangerous pass in, which obviously is more difficult to play. It's a
Yep.
lot easier to have 90% pass completion when you're just passing like 5 yards here and there to your teammates.
Yeah.
He's the guy who'll
Correct.
pick up the ball and he'll keep on trying to find the striker, keep on trying to find the winger, keep trying to make things happen, right? So, and he's done that beautifully over the last 18 months. But now with Sancho coming in, he's got someone else to do that because Sancho, I mean, Sancho has everything, and when I say everything, he's a brilliant dribbler. He's when you look at his stats, I think he was in the top 2 or 3% across Europe for dribbles completed last season. He's fantastic, but he's a very good creator as well in terms of creative presence, in terms of passing, in terms of having like key passes or dangerous passes. He's again right up there. So it's not just a case of him picking up the ball and dribbling past players. He
Yep.
can pick up the ball in even central positions and play like a really sort of intelligent pass in between the defense between defenders, or a pass out wide, which when another player's in space and stuff like that. He's a goal threat as well. He scored a bunch of goals for Dortmund over the last 2 seasons. He's obviously got assists and all of that as well. So as the thing is with United now, what I expect to see is that once he settles in, and actually it's quite ironic that even though we bought him to play on the right, he will primarily play on the right. Even for Dortmund, his best performances actually came on the left. So
Yep.
and it's I'm not saying he's bad on the right. He's very good on the right, but some would say his best position is again on the left. So
Because of he cuts in,
I
right? Because the way he cuts in.
it's about him cutting in the overlap and all of that.
Mm.
So, but again, he on the right as well. He's played really well for Dortmund, and he has a number of goals, assists, all of that from there because he will drift in field from the right as well. And what that will do is, again, for last season, because most team or every team knew that United are going to attack down the left, they could focus on that side and leave the right hand side a little bit open because whoever was on the right was coming in anyway. And otherwise, you've got Wan Bissaka. When if he gets the ball, it's not really much of a threat. With
Yep.
Sancho there, and a lot of times what that did was Bruno was often moving out to the right. From
Yes.
if he's playing as the number 10, he was going out to the right because there's nobody else there. Shaw,
Yep.
Rashford, Pogba, Maguire, everybody else is on the
Yeah.
left.
I mean, he loses the
There's
ball. Sometimes there's no one to take the ball in the middle. That's
Yeah,
the
so
issue. So yeah.
Fernandez was being forced to go out to the right to provide a little bit of balance and some sort of creativity from the right because otherwise everything is going down the left. But with
Yep.
Sancho coming in, it'll obviously now teams will have to focus a little bit on him, obviously, and United will have a little bit of threat down the right. So that again then will create some space down the left. Teams will have to move over. They'll have to focus there. Fernandez won't really need to roam that much. He will. That is in his nature. He'll keep sort of roaming horizontally across the pitch from his central position. He'll go left, he'll go right. But he won't be needing to do that too much to the right. He can focus on wherever the space is. If there's space on the right, I can go there. If it's on the left, I can go there. So with all of that happening, I think it just basically gives United more than one angle of attack. It's not just we're just going to attack down the left. We can do stuff down the right. We've got a very good, prolific creator, dribbler,
And goal scorer as well.
and
Yeah.
goal scorer. Because exactly, he excels at taking people on. He's rapid, and he's good creatively, and he scores goals. So it's honestly the complete package, and he's extremely young as well.
21, 22, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 21, 22. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with all of that, that's the biggest reason why fans are so excited, because he can potentially sort of light up Old Trafford for the next 10 years easily if he sticks around, and he can become a legend in that sense. He's got number 25 right now. When Cavani leaves next season, 110% he's getting number 7, right? Go on, yeah.
No, very quickly, because you mentioned that, I just wanted to say something, because we have seen, the time like Cristiano Ronaldo, when he came into the fray, he was so exciting to watch with all his side over sidestep and so on and so forth. Do you see Sancho being the closest, comparison to Cristiano Ronaldo now that is coming onto the squad to achieve similar feats like what Ronaldo did before?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the excitement that he's generating among the fan base, and just in terms of the threat he'll carry on the pitch, definitely. I think the last signing I was this excited about was probably Angel Di Maria. It didn't work out, but when Di Maria came to United, it was a big deal.
I hope it turns out exactly like that.
Hey, you can hope on, Harry. It's not going to happen the way you think.
No, but to be honest, I mean, like I said, I mean, as a Liverpool fan, I'm fearful of some of the business United have done as well. They've done good business. I still think they're not a complete squad. If you ask me personally, to play the kind of brand that he wants to play, especially in midfield, that's where I see the gaps. But really interesting insights, Harshal, on both players and the way United are going to play. And I think we're going to understand that more once we start watching them play today and the weeks ahead as well, how those two players will bed in and what United will go with. And we've got to do that session on Klopp and Guardiola.
Absolutely.
I know we went really deep into this, so we'll want you back to go through that
Absolutely,
as well.
absolutely.
Before we let you go, though, Harshal, the start of the Premier League season, Arsenal got turned over yesterday. Arteta is under threat already, but we want a quick prediction from you for the season. So we want your top 4. Let us know your number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 at the end of the season. And who do you think is going to get relegated?
So honestly, the title, I think, depends on whether Harry Kane goes to City. Because if Harry Kane goes to City, I don't see how you stop that City team. They won the league. No, because I mean, they had a really bad start last season.
Yep.
And then the game at Chelsea where they won 3-1, I think it was in January or so, 3-0 or 3-0. And that sort of Pep, that system and the way he started, the team played from there with Joao Cancelo coming into midfield and all that sort of thing. They went on that long unbeaten run and they won the title by a pretty big margin from there, right? And to that team now, you're adding Jack Grealish and potentially Harry Kane. I really don't see how you can stop them. The only way I think you can stop them is through Pep's own mistakes, where, like in the Champions League final, I thought
when he overthinks, basically. Yep.
Exactly. He didn't play a defensive midfielder. I don't know why. Rodri played every game and then he didn't play him there.
For the benefit of making it a bit more interesting, let's go with what the squads are right now. So Harry Kane at Spurs and not gone to City as yet.
If that's the case, then I think it'll be a very tight, close battle between Chelsea and City, because I think the one thing Chelsea were lacking last season was a proven goal scorer. They were creating chance. They were extremely tight under Tuchel, and that will continue. Defensively they're going to be super tight defensively, and they've got that clinical striker. Even though they're not creating too many chances, but the 2 or 3 chances that they create, that Lukaku can take. He's proven in the Premier League, proven in Serie A. He's one of the best strikers in the world. So if they don't get Kane, and they don't have, they don't really have a striker in that sense, because the only other player who's a striker in that City squad is Gabriel Jesus, who's not really proven. Gabriel Jesus is, I still have massive doubts about the Jesus. So Pep will probably play with a false 9 with like Grealish, Jesus, Bernardo Silva if he stays, Mahrez, Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne, all these guys sort of contributing goals, but no one outstanding goal scorer. Whereas for Chelsea, I think Lukaku is easily scoring 20 goals, and then you have the other players scoring their fair share of goals as well.
So not going to let you sit on the fence. Who do you think is going to finish on top, Chelsea or City?
I will still go with City.
Okay. Because second Chelsea.
I'm giving Pep that much of room and that sort of respect, because he's already done it in the Premier League. So it'll be City and Chelsea first, top 2, and then between United and Liverpool for third and fourth. It'll again be a very tough fight, in my opinion, between United and Liverpool. As a United fan, I'll say United finished third, Liverpool fourth, but it could very well be the other way around. And again, honestly, if I think, even though, and as a United fan, it does, I wouldn't say it hurts, but the thing is, even with the business that United have done this summer, I still think Liverpool are better placed to make a title challenge this year if they are to make a challenge. If you ask me between Liverpool and United, who are the likelier ones to be fighting for the title this season, I will still say it's Liverpool, because there is a proper system in place there. They have the players who've done it. Obviously, they won the title like 18 months ago, and as I said earlier, they've got some players coming back into form, players who've had rest. With United, they're still a little bit missing, so it'll have to be 2 or 3 players having an exceptional season for United to challenge for the title. I think United will finish in the top 4 easily, and then next summer's recruitment will determine if United can, come back and be in the top 2.
Fair enough. What about your bottom 3?
I'm really scared for Southampton.
Yep.
They've lost Danny Ings, they've lost Ryan Bertrand, they've lost Yannick Vestergaard.
Yep.
3 massive players for them. Ings has been the top scorer across the last 3 seasons. Yep. Vestergaard has been one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League, I think, in the last 8
Bertrand is one of the best left-backs as well, yeah.
Exactly. He's been a very good, solid left-back. So they've lost 3 big players. There are still rumours around James Ward-Prowse, the captain. Villa tried to sign him. They weren't able to, but they could go back with the bid, and, Southampton might accept it. So even without having, obviously, even if they keep Ward-Prowse, I'm still very, very worried for Southampton, because I don't know who they have to replace that quality. They've brought a couple of players in, and Hasenhüttl is a very good manager who's capable of, bringing more than the sum of the parts from the team he has. But I'm worried for Southampton. Burnley a little bit, but again, the thing with Burnley is every season you say, okay, they're going to get relegated, but then Sean Dyche does his thing, and they finish comfortably mid-table. So I'm not going to say Burnley. I'd probably say Watford, because Watford become a bit of a yo-yo club, and Gisco Munoz did a good job in getting them promoted, but that squad is still a bit of a mishmash. I don't know how they're gonna play. I don't know what they're gonna do, who's gonna score the goals, what their defense is like. And third, I'd probably say Norwich. So 2 of the 3 promoted sides, because I think Brentford will stay up. I want Brentford to stay up.
They play a beautiful brand of football, actually.
Exactly. I'm a massive fan of Brentford. For the last 3-4 years, I've been watching them. I'm a massive fan. Been wanting them to get into the Premier League for the longest time, and they were superb last night. So I expect Brentford to stay up, and do well, like how Leeds did last year, where Leeds finished like 11th. So I expect Brentford to do well, but Norwich, they've lost Emi Buendia, who was huge for them in the Championship last year. And again, if they continue to, I think they'll still play in that same attacking style which they played 2 seasons ago when they got relegated. The same style they played with in the Championship and came up, but again, it comes down to if they've managed to have that defensive solidity, because I think they'll create chances, they'll score goals. But the thing with Norwich 2 seasons ago when they got relegated was that they were conceding too many goals. They were really open. So if Daniel Farke has managed to sort of change that and sort of, build a team which can be defensively solid while attacking at the same time, then that can work. But if not, then I see them going down again. So it'll be, in my opinion, Norwich, Southampton, and Watford.
Fair enough.
Wow.
What about you?
I agree with you on Brentford. They were absolutely super yesterday. I hope they stay up.
What about you guys? Who do you think is going to get relegated?
I was going to say the same.
Liverpool.
For me, it was those 3 as well. I think Brentford will survive. Norwich, Southampton, and Watford is what I thought would go down as well. And to win the title, of course, I'm going to say Liverpool. So I'm going to stick with that. But I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Harshal. And I'm going to let the 2 of you guys off, because literally in 15 minutes, United are going to play. So I know you're going to get yourselves a drink ready and sit on the sofa and catch the first game of the season. So I'm not going to hold you guys back anymore. Ram, over to you, man.
Well, Harshal, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board on the show.
Thank you.
We really enjoyed.
Pleasure being here. It's been a
Thank you
lot
so
of fun.
much. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And of course, your insights were very, very valuable indeed, not just for us, but also our viewers as well. And we look forward to having you back on to discuss the other part of what we are supposed to discuss on Klopp versus Pep. So, Harshal, let's hope United win today. We are rooting for United. Go GGMU.
Absolutely.
Signing off. Yeah, Old Trafford. Signing off from the Plot Malaysia, guys. Thank you, Harshal, once again. This is the show
Thank you.
for the fans.
By the
Join us, Harshal.
fans.
By the fans. Here we go.
Yeah.
Cheers, Harshal.
Cheers. So, guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and of course, watch out for our playlist. And of course, watch the next video. Thank you, guys. Support us, it will help us do better. Cheers, everyone. Thank you very, very much.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.